Hello viewers and students, my name is Eugene and I'm currently a teacher for animation and graphic design courses here at a local university in Malaysia. Alright, now this video is going to be about how to start with Trapcode 3D Stroke. Alright, now you don't need any files or Photoshop files from me for this tutorial. All you need is After Effects and the Trapcode plugin that you need to install, as well as just a solid, okay? Because you can create all these nice little strokes that we're going to do right now with just a solid, okay? So we're going to start with the first one, which is the blue one with the multicolor, right? This one, and then we'll lead up to the one with the taper, and finally those that look like little paintbrush strokes. All right, so we have 3 here, and it's a pretty short sequence, so actually one is built off the other, so we'll do it step by step. All right, probably we won't even replicate this wave. We might want to do a different shape. Okay, so let's just put this aside and let's start with a new composition altogether. Okay, so let's call this new composition new scene, or let's call it 3D stroke. Alright, 192.1080, frame rate 25, duration, well, it took me less than 5 seconds here, so yeah, let's just put it down at 5 seconds. Okay, now I've already created a solid just now to do those strokes, so I will just use this solid again, just in case you do not know where to make your solids. Just go to layer. In fact, we'll just make a new one for this project, okay? So layer, new, solid. It does not matter what color solid you make, because it will not influence the color of your 3D stroke. The color of 3D strokes can be set when you are making the stroke in the plugin settings itself, so it does not matter what. You could use a red for all you care, and it still does not affect the 3D stroke that you're making. Alright, now the first thing we're going to do is use the pen tool. Okay, we're going to use the pen tool to draw a line of where the stroke will be moving. Now you must make sure that red solid one is selected, the solid you've created, and then start making the line. So probably what we could do for this round is let's make a curved line, come in and loop, do a loop, de-loop, do twice. And don't worry if you made a curl that you don't quite like, you can still correct it afterwards. And it exits. Okay, so that's the path of which my 3D stroke will be taking. And let's just tweak this curves a little bit so that it's a lot smoother. Right. Sometimes you can tweak it right now, but you can't really see how smooth it is until you apply this 3D stroke. And sometimes it catches a little bit of a angle and it doesn't look quite nice, so you need to kind of recorrect it again, but you do the best you can before you even start. Now, you notice that you don't see anything other than the solid right now, and you don't actually once you don't see the line until you click it, right? But let's see what happens when you go and apply 3D stroke. Okay, so I'm going to go to Effect, Trapcode 3D stroke. Okay, so immediately you see the white line created. By default, they will give you this. The whole red solid is no longer there. It's pretty tough to look at this green line that makes up the initial line. I can change it by going to mask, yeah, the red solid down here. You can call this thing as stroke A, right? Stroke 01. Okay, and you can change the color to something a little bit more viewable, like this blue, so it's a little bit more easier to see. Okay, so I can see that my curves are pretty smooth and clean, and does not look like there are any hiccups except for here. It looks like there's an angle, so I'm just trying to smooth it out a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to try and make the first one, which is the multicolored stroke, right? So I think it would look nicer with it being slightly thicker. And probably I would choose a set of cool colors. For example, maybe start with a light blue to head it. Now, how do I animate a 3D stroke? You can use offset, right? But I find that offset, at each point of time, there will be a point of time where the offset is the full length of this stroke, and I don't want that. I want it to only have a certain portion. So let's just show you what offset is able to do. Okay, I'm going to put offset's value right now at minus 100. So I'm going to keyframe that, press U, and bring that keyframe up. Let's say at 1 second, it will go up to 0, which is the full length of this stroke. And then let's say at 2 seconds, I'm going to put it to 100. Okay, so for it to go from nothing to something and then nothing again, it has to go through a phase where you see the entire stroke, and I don't want that. So offset does that. If your project does kind of call for a portion of time where you see the whole length of the stroke, for example, it creates an image, like a billboard of some sort that you're trying to animate, and it has a picture of like a coffee cup or something, then maybe, yeah, it works for that kind of project. But for this particular stroke, I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use start and end. Okay, so I'm just going to bring end right now, which by default, okay, I'm going to put offset at 0 as well. Now I'm going to bring end. It will start off as 100 when you first apply 3D stroke. I'm going to bring it to 0 first. All right, now we can do this very systematically. So I'm going to keyframe start and end, and then you press U on your keyboard, which brings up the 2 keyframes. Whatever effect that has a keyframe, or whatever that has a keyframe within this item here, this solid, will come up. That's a shortcut key. Now, let's just say at 1 second, we'll push the end to 100, okay? And then we're going to take the start keyframe, which is now still 0, and push it all the way here. Okay, and then at 2 seconds, what you're going to do is bring the start all the way from 0 to 100. So what you've done is almost the same like what we did with the offset just now, where there's a point of time you see the entire length of this thing. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the 2 keyframes for start, and I'm going to overlap it slightly over this area, right? And you'll notice that the stroke becomes a lot shorter, and there is not a point of time where the whole length of the stroke is on the path, right? And this is what I want, right? Yeah. So and the more you overlap, the shorter the stroke gets, all right? What you're doing is basically you're telling Trapcode, you see, what you're telling Trapcode is to bring the end from 0 to 100 in 1 second, and for start to go from 0 to 100. The start is that point, yeah, the tail end of it, from 0 to 100 by 2 seconds. So if you overlap it, what it's doing, it's kind of chasing each other, yeah? Before end could even reach the end, the start has begun to chase up. All right, that's why you don't get the full length of the stroke. All right, it's that simple to understand. So I usually like to do that method first, where you create the keyframe for the start, for the end, to fill up the whole length of the path, and then for the start to catch up after that. And then what I will do is I'll take the start and then push it in so that I can adjust how long I want my stroke to be. See, if I move it almost overlapping, it becomes really short. But for this case, maybe I will just want it slightly about this length. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the graph editor, the speed of which the stroke is traveling, and give it a nice easy ease where it kind of accelerates at this point where it's spinning round that circle. So I'm going to go close. Okay. Okay. So it's going to hopefully kind of speed up like a roller coaster when it goes through the loops, right? Okay. So the graph is going to start slow, and then as it comes through the hoop, it's going to speed up and then slow down again. So just have a look at the preview. See how it looks like. All right, yeah, that's what I want. See, it kind of does that nice loop. Now, probably a bit too fast. I'm going to take the last two keyframes here, pull it out a little bit more so that I can see the nice animation do that loop. Yeah, all right, so it takes 2 seconds for this whole line to complete the loop. Okay, so now how do we get those different colors overlapping each other on the stroke? Okay, so what we do is take this stroke, Control D, so you get stroke 2, and what you do is just take this whole thing and just offset it slightly. And if you want to see how much you've offset, simply make sure that stroke 02 right now. And what After Effects does, whenever you have a numeric at the end of an item, and when you duplicate it, it automatically changes the numeric for you to the 02. So it's quite convenient right now. Okay, so I'm going to just click on this and change it to something slightly darker. There you go. You can see it's changed up a little bit more. Okay, press OK. Just readjust this so that you can get an offset there. All right. And I'm going to take it and offset it one more time, duplicate it, stroke 3, and change the color again to probably a green. Right? And then you can duplicate it one more time and then offset it one more time to, say, a dark green color. Right? So there you go. Okay? So that was simple enough to do and very quick. Okay? So now let's do the next stroke. Okay? We could use back the same path, okay, to create that taper. So I'm just going to take this and duplicate it, Control D, and this is stroke 5 right now. In fact, maybe let's call it stroke stroke B501. So this group probably would have been better for me to call it stroke A. Stroke A as well. These are all the first multicolored one would all be A, and this one would be B. Now let's have this guy start somewhere a lot later, okay? And how do we add the taper? You just go to taper, bring this down, and press enable. When you press enable, automatically what it does is it tapers both the end and the front, okay? If you want a larger front, okay, for it to look like there's a bigger tip, so all you need to do is go to end thickness, sorry, actually, and increase the size until 100, and there you go. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to do. Now, how did I do the other two little ones that chase this one? All I do usually is I duplicate it one more time. See, it's really convenient. Control D, B02, and all I do is offset it slightly and kind of move it out of the way and have it make sure that it's moving on a slightly different path than the main one, right? Than the, well, you could call it the parent path, okay? So it's moving slightly different. Okay, let's have a look. And you might want to change the color as well, probably to something different, and maybe lessen the thickness. And let's have a look. Oh, it does travel together for quite a bit here. So let's push him up and pull this up. Okay, so let's see. Wow, all right. Let's add another one. Just probably offset it even more and make it shorter. Now, how do we do it? How do we actually make it shorter? Just by selecting again the start and offsetting it even more so that it overlaps even more. And this will make a darker color. All right. And this one, we're gonna change the path of it even more. Okay. So that there is more differentiation of the path it's taking. There's more contrast. Right. Okay. And there you go. So let's try it out again. There you go. Yeah. So we've got the second one done. And the last one is also very simple. It's just a few steps. We're going to take this stroke, Control D, and call this now stroke C01. Okay, so let's have this stroke start after these blue guys leave, and let's color it yellow. There you go. Yeah, all you do is just change, and you can keyframe the color as well. So if you want it to turn from yellow, let's say it starts off as yellow and then changes to, say, orange, you can do that. Let's press U and push the yellow up front. So it comes in as yellow and changes to an orange over time. All right, now how did I get that wiggly thing with the brush stroke? Okay, all you do is first type in roughen edges. Yeah, in your, just search for the effects called roughen edges, or if you can't search it here, you can always go to, so make sure it's selected on your timeline, go to effect, stylize, down here are roughen edges. Okay, so let's, or you can just type it here in your effects and presets, drag it over to this, voila, immediately you can see that it has roughened edges already. So it's without and with. All right, I might just adjust it. You can adjust it any way you want. There are some more settings here that's pretty interesting to do. Edge sharpness, edge influence. All right, I think I won't muck around with the settings too much. I think I'm quite happy with what I have. Maybe with the scale. What the scale does is, if you decrease it, you'll notice that there is more texture and more bumps. Fractal influence would usually change, but it's already at the maximum, so I don't think I can move it anymore. Complexity has to do with how complex the bumps are. I don't want it too complex because it's just not viewable at all. See, so I think what we had before was just fine. So let's have a look at it right now. Okay, so already you can see it has that painterly look. And you can play around with other settings here. Rusty to make it look like it is rusty. Photocopy to look like it's a photocopy. But I'll stick with roughen. And I'm going to just increase the border so that it has that breaking, like it's leaving a trail. And yeah, okay, there you go. edge sharpness. I will increase the edge sharpness and increase my border a little bit more. There you go. So I'm quite happy with what I have right now. I've played around with border and edge sharpness. If you have a look, if I do decrease my edge sharpness, it becomes a little fuzzier. If I increase it, it becomes harder. I do want it quite hard, right? And the other effect I'm going to apply is called turbulent displace, which is here, or it's under effect. Oops, sorry, effect, distort. All right, so you have to make sure this is selected. Go to effect, distort, and it's under turbulent displace. So let's select that. We're adding this now. See, if you look at the stroke before you add it, after you add it, so you're actually displacing the stroke as well. And there's another whole set of settings here that you can play around with. I'm going to adjust it. I don't want it too turbulent. So amount is there, scale is smaller, increase the complexity a little bit. Now, you'll notice that as you play, it seems like there is not much turbulence going on. That's because you need to keyframe evolution as well. All right, so let's click on the keyframe here. It's now at 0, 0. So by the time the stroke exits, let's have evolution go 4 times round. And you'll notice that there should be some form of turbulence going on. Well, it's a little bit, but because the stroke is moving too fast as well. So it's okay, I think it's probably sufficient right now. Unless you create more of the amount, yeah, then you will really get a more obvious look. Yeah. And increase the size as well. Let's have a look. Alright, yeah, it's really distorting. Okay, so once you're done with that, I'm going to duplicate this one more time and push it to the back. And like the previous set, the stroke B1, I'm going to just offset the path of this one. And this one you can be a little bit looser because the form or the shape of the stroke itself is already quite distorted and organic. So you can just make sure that the stroke, that the path it's moving on, it's not too angular, and just slightly different. So, and we might want to change the color as well. Let's try to change the color, say a mixture of blue, teal, and the other one we're going to put darker color, perhaps like dark blue. And let's have a look at what we have. So I'm going to just preview this last bit. It's really slow. Let's put it at third. And there you go. Yeah, two kind of organic looking strokes, right? It may be moving too fast. If I were you, I'd probably slow it down a bit because you do want it to look a bit like water. So maybe let's just try and increase the composition time to say 10 seconds and just pull these keyframes out. Okay, so take the 2 C strokes and then press U, and let's try and pull up the keyframes. Alright, so I'm going to select all the last keyframes for all the elements and pull it up. Okay, let's have a look once more. Let's bring down the work area and play. Yeah, it's a lot better. Now, you notice that it's very weird that at the end, it looks like it will almost disappear before the edge. That's because once you apply turbulent displace and even roughened edges, it kind of does that because that's how large the size of the solid is. So in this kind of instances, I would usually just press scale and increase it, say by 103. And it should solve your problem. Just increase the size by a little bit and you will not get that funny edge anymore. Okay, all right, so there you go. You have three different types of 3D strokes, one built on top of the other. There's a lot more stuff you can do with 3D stroke, but this is, like I said, an introductory tutorial to 3D stroke to help you get started. There are tons of other stuff you can do. You can combine it with particular even to have like water splashes that follow the stroke itself. And just very quickly, if you want to multiply the amount of strokes you have, say for this one, I'm going to take stroke B01, go to repeater and enable. You notice immediately it gets duplicated a few more times. It says here instances 2. So that means it will duplicate itself 2 times on both sides on the z-axis. So therefore there is in total 5 instances, right? So or 5 strokes, yeah? And you can change the angle of which these strokes are traveling, yeah, over here at the settings below, right? Z displace, Y displace, what else? And you can also do the rotation as well, and you'll notice that you have a totally different effect altogether. Look at that, right? So just be careful though, because it is moving in a 3D space. All right, so that's all for this tutorial. It's a short one, and hopefully you get to do really cool effects with this. All right, so for more videos on motion graphics with Adobe After Effects or Illustrator methods using Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator, please click the subscribe button, and if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. Also, do follow me on Instagram at eugenosaurus.fu for my artwork. I also have a Facebook page by the same name. Both links are in the description below. I'll see you guys again soon.